gentlemen, welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Training camp rolling along in Florham Park in the heat this week. Connor was out there at practice getting sunburned. I was in the air conditioning of my apartment. Marissa's not on the East Coast anymore, but Connor had to suffer through it. This is Tim McMaster, along with the Athletics Jets reporter Connor Hughes and our producer Marissa Morris. Thanks for checking us out. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, whatever you can do to drop in a 5-star review, a plus sign, whatever you can do to help us out. We love that. Packed rundown tonight. If you're checking out the stream or whenever you're listening, we're going to get to the latest, of course, on Zach Wilson, the roller coaster that is the rookie's first training camp, Denzel Mims and food poisoning, both lines, offensive and defensive, all of that stuff. But we got to start with this. Marissa, play the audio.
Code green, unblock me. I'm sorry, Star Wars is cool.
Oh, wait, sorry, it's got to play again. Hold on, it looped wrong. Hold on.
Connor, unblock me on Twitter. Code green, unblock me. I'm sorry, Star Wars is cool.
Just get that end
Star Wars is cool is definitely the best part. I wouldn't have unblocked him if not for Star Wars is cool, but that was at Code Green Jets putting in all the effort at the green and white scrimmage game. And Connor, you got to give us the answer. Did you unblock him?
I did unblock him. If you're going to go through that much trouble to literally scream at the green and white scrimmage, to be positioned in a spot where I can hear you, scream, get my attention, and then also tweet me to follow up and have a swarm of other people tweet me as well. Because it was like, I didn't remember, I couldn't hear what the guy said his handle was. I just heard unblock me on Twitter. And I was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. You probably did something good to get blocked. But then when I tweeted about it after the scrimmage, I got like 25 responses from other Twitter handles saying it was code green, it was code green, it was code green. So I unblocked him. And I got to say, it has been a pretty cool development throughout training camp to have the number of fans kind of reach out and just say something, whether it's, hey, hello, or when it's the open practices, the open scrimmage, just to hear from you guys. It's been cool. And also to like the cool add-on is that like, this is the first time since 2019 that there's been fans, and this isn't a humble brag, but like, obviously, I've been active on social media throughout my time on this beat, so people do know my face. So when they see me at one of these Jet open practices, you hear the, hey, love the show, love this. Oh, congratulations, like your writing, that kind of a thing, which is cool. But what's awesome now is also hearing them say, I love the podcast, and knowing that they're loyal, can't wait listeners, can't wait for the podcast. Whereas Tim and Marissa, hearing all those types of things at the stadium was hearing, congratulations on getting married, all that kinds of stuff. So anytime people scream out positive things, I do like it. I think it's cool. And it's cool to interact and talk to the fans. Like there was a guy who came down to practice today, which was another one was open to the public, and made a comment about, hey, Connor, love the podcast, love the writing. I got to get those people on Twitter off of your back. So if you say that, that's extra brownie points. So I don't know how many more open practices the Jets have, but anytime people jump out and say hello, or they jump out and say, love the writing, love the Athletic, love it. It's always really cool to hear. And it's always kind of surreal and awesome. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's a fun, cool thing. And this probably took the cake as far as being yelled at to unblock him on Twitter. That was another big positive.
Just a warning, though, to Code Green out there, wherever you are, if you're listening, Blocktober is coming very soon, and Connor tends to get a little chippy in season. So just be careful. Tread lightly. We don't want you to get blocked again.
I'm going to do it again if people don't stop with this Denzel Mims crap that they keep getting me on about. I report like the facts and just write what I see, and suddenly I'm a hater and all this other stuff. So the Denzel Mims clan that's been in my mentions are going to be the next ones that end up getting blocked.
We are going to talk about Denzel Mims, but before we get to Mims, we should start what we usually do. Well, big picture first before we get to Zach Wilson and an update there. Today, light practice. It was hot. It was over 90 in the city. I'm not sure what it is in Florham Park, but I know on the field, it gets really hot when the heat's beating down. 7-on-7s, mostly light practice. Tomorrow, it's going to be even hotter. And it sounds kind of like it's going to be one of the toughest practices of training camp. They're going to have to be careful with that.
Yeah, they're going to ramp it up. I mean, yeah, solid talk today about, how you're going to have to, or it might have been yesterday, all these days blend together about keeping hydrated and all that stuff. But the one thing that I think he's done a good job with and maybe we'll see how it pans out once the actual season starts, and how this one pans out once we actually are having games and we see if the Jets are winning football games or if they're a competitive football team. But he's done an interesting job this year of staggering when the intensity comes up and when he dials the intensity back, and when he rails it up and when he dials it back. So on Tuesday, it was a much more intense practice. It was fully padded. There was an abundance of team drills. There was an abundance of drive the field drills. There was all that stuff, right? It was intense. It was intense. It was intense. It was intense. I think he said the starting offense and defense saw about 45 snaps of full contact against each other. So in past practices and in past training camps I've been to, the next day wouldn't necessarily be a take the foot off the gas day. It would be, at worst case, at least uppers, no lowers. They would still be banging into each other. Saleh, whenever there's been a padded practice, he's followed it with a lighter practice. Whenever there's been that high intensity, the next one's been pads off, take it easy, more 7-on-7s, not 11-on-11s. Knock wood, there has been significantly less injuries this year than any training camp I can really remember. Aside from Elijah Vera Tucker, there isn't another Jets starter or another prominent Jets player that has missed a significant amount of time. You got basically your entire offensive line, your entire receiving core, running backs and quarterbacks. Defensively, entire secondary, entire defensive line minus Quinnen Williams, who got hurt in the offseason and everything like that. And even more so than that, there's been no fights. And this is the first training camp I can remember where we are into the third week of training camp, and there's not been an intense helmet-off, fist-throwing fight. There was a little bit of a skirmish like a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't even a full skirmish. Trevon Wesco looked at one point like he came up ready to hit somebody, but that was kind of it. There hasn't been a fight. In fact, the one time I thought there was going to be was on Tuesday when LaMichael Pirine lowered his shoulder and bowled over LaMarcus Joyner. He got up screaming. LaMarcus Joyner got up screaming. Next thing you know, they're bro-hugging each other like, yeah, you just ran me over. Great hit. And they each went to their own sidelines. I've never seen anything like it before. And I asked Saleh about it today, and he said he thinks it's because that there's a legit understanding of respect between this team. And there's a legit understanding of camaraderie within this team. But more so than that, I also think that they're not allowing the tensions to get so high that fists are thrown. There's not that tension rises with a padded practice. Then the very next day, you're going right back at it against each other. You're going right back at it against each other. You're going right back at it. They give these guys a chance to get the blood flowing, get the intensity up, but then they reel it back in. Now, will that be the case when they've joined practices against the Packers? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's probably when you're going to see some fights, because there's always fights when there's joint practices. But at least it's been different and unique to see the way that these practices are structured and the way that they kind of balance these intense practices, not intense practices, intense practices, not intense practices. And then also when they kind of will, the way that it's kind of interacted within the teammates and the camaraderie.
Well, fights when you're doing practices against other teams. I mean, that's a whole other animal. That's good. That builds up team camaraderie instead of just like offensive camaraderie versus defensive camaraderie. We're all in it together, fighting the Packers. So that to me, that's fine. But hey, imagine that not pushing guys to the limit day after day actually keeps them healthier. Crazy thought. The NFL is getting smarter. They are slowly getting smarter. It's good to see. So as far as quarterbacks go, Zach Wilson, the roller coaster ride, I guess we'll call it at this point, because he's now in that area that I think we all suspected we'd get to at some point, even though he was so good in OTAs, that the guy's a rookie. He's going to have good days. He's going to have bad days. Unfortunately, the green and white scrimmage, not a great day. You would have loved to see him shine in that one, but 11 for 24, 112 yards, a couple of picks there. One thing that I thought was interesting, and you had it in one of your, I don't know if it was yesterday's story or before that, was just the fact that the defense had the defense installed before the offense completely had the offense installed. So basically, the defense had it all coming at Zach Wilson while he was still learning things for the first time. Yeah. And that's a factor too, right? I mean, there's going to be the up and downs anyway, but to me, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think there's three things that have kind of resulted in the hiccups that we've seen from Wilson, right? I think there's primarily three things that have resulted in the hiccups. And the first one is what you mentioned, is that up until the green and white scrimmage, the offense has been installing different things every single day. So unlike the defense, which, as you mentioned, has been installed, and they've been repeating everything and getting more comfortable and not thinking because they've been doing and repetition and repetition and repetition. Zach Wilson and the offense on Tuesday was seeing something new than what they practiced on Monday. And on Wednesday, they were practicing something new than they did on Tuesday. And Thursday, they were practicing something new than they did on Wednesday. The green and white scrimmage was the final day of that installation. That at that point, once the green and white scrimmage was over, the entire offense had been handed to them. So since then, since the green and white scrimmage, the Jets had their day off, and now they've had 3 practices in a row, and they'll have another one on Thursday. They have now been repeating or starting to repeat, which means that Wilson is going to have a chance to benefit the same way that the defense did with repetition, where this isn't the first time he's running this play. This is now the second or third time he's running this play. This isn't the first time he's practiced this particular situation. It's now the second or third time he's practiced that particular situation. The more he reps it, the more he does it, the more comfortable he's going to get, and the less he's going to be thinking he's just going to get going out there and doing. It's not going to be, taking a moment to what should I do? It's all going to be secondhand knowledge. It's all going to come to him instantly, where he's going to see the read. No, okay, well, I've seen that before. When the defense did that, I went there. That didn't work. So now I'm going to counter and do this. He's going to be taking from his pool of what he has tried and didn't work, and then implementing it more elsewhere. So that's a big piece of it, is that he's kind of been going throughout this learning curve and going throughout this installation period when the defense has already had everything installed. The second area that I think has resulted in some hiccups is, and we've talked about this and we've written it a ton on The Athletic, which you guys should subscribe if you don't already, is that beginning with, I believe it was the Jets' 7th camp practice, I think it was either after the 6th or after the 7th, I forget the exact date, the Jets began running a string of, and an ever-increasing string of, live drills in practice. And I don't mean live drills in terms of tackling. I don't mean live drills in terms of full contact. Nobody's being brought to the ground. But beginning in that 7th practice, the Jets weren't running plays offensively that were scripted. So the way that things work throughout OTA's mini camp and the first week or so at training camp is that the Jets would have their offensive team meetings, their quarterback meetings, their full team offensive meetings. And Mike LaFleur would stand up there, and Rob Calabrese would stand up there, and they would say, okay, these are the plays we're going to run in this drill. These are the plays we're going to run in this drill. These are the plays we're going to run in this drill. So Zach had a chance to know what was coming, mentally prepare for what was coming, go through it in the walkthrough to begin practice, and then go out there and actually rep it. So there was a comfortability that was there because he knew what was coming. He had mentally prepared for what was coming. He had learned it and repped it in his head, learned it and repped it in meetings, learned it and repped it in the walkthrough, and then gone out there and did it, right? So that's going to help. Beginning on that 7th practice, the Jets started to stop doing that. And by starting to stop doing that, they went to live play calling. So the first time Zach Wilson learned of the play that the Jets were going to run was when Mike LaFleur radioed it into his head. That's a difference. That's a next step that a young quarterback has to take, but that's another step that a young quarterback has to get comfortable doing. He has to get used to hearing Mike LaFleur in his ear. He has to get used to hearing Mike LaFleur manage a practice as if he would manage a game, and know that this play sets up this play, and that play sets up this one, and that's going to set up this. He has to learn how to do all those things, and it's going to take the speed aspect and slow it a little bit down, because again, now Zach is learning the play. He's got to think through the play in real time before the play clock runs down, run it against the defense, make a change if he has to make a change, and then go through it. It's not to say he can't do it. It's not to say that he won't do it. It's not to say that he's bad to do it. It's just saying that he needs to learn and get used to doing it, which he has now started to do since that 7th practice, as he's done it more and more and more. The third thing that I think is slowing him down, and it's a very real thing, this offensive line is pass blocking like Garbo. Like it really, it's like, I'm not kidding when I say that Carl Lawson himself gets 2 to 3 sacks a practice. I've never heard of a pass rusher. I've never seen in my 8 years on this beat a pass rusher doing that. I've seen pass rushers have good practices where they'll get 2. I've seen good practices or good strings of practices where a pass rusher will routinely be in the backfield. But it is every single practice in team drills, Carl Lawson is getting through 2 or 3 times himself. If Carl Lawson weren't getting there so fast, John Franklin Myers would be there, or Foley Fatukasi would be there, or Sheldon Rankins would be there. God knows what's going to happen when Quinnen Williams gets healthy next week and gets in there. So not only is Zach Wilson having to deal with the install. And not only is Zach Wilson having to deal with learning to go hear the live plays in his head and getting used to that, but he's also dealing with the fact that this defensive line is making his life miserable because of how quickly they're getting in the backfield. So he's dealing with all of these learning and all this new installation and all this, and then he's having to go through it all in rapid succession and rapid fire because that defensive line is just pushing the pocket and collapsing the pocket and getting through. And I know we're going to talk about Mekhi Becton and Carl Lawson a little bit, so I'm not going to hammer on it now and all those kinds of things. We're going to talk about this offensive line, which has shown a very, very impressive ability to run block, not so much pass block. But I think those three things are all combining to not stunt Zach Wilson's growth, but to have him on this roller coaster of perfect example, Tuesday's practice. Zach Wilson drops back. It was my lead for the practice story that day. Zach Wilson drops back, feels the pressure, steps up in the pocket, rolls out left, flicks his wrist in a way that we saw in his pro day and all marveled and googly-eyed and went crazy at in his pro day. Flicks his wrist. The ball goes all the way down the field to Tyler Kroft, perfectly accurate for what would have been a touchdown. All Kroft had to do was open his fingers and the ball was there, right? Gorgeous play. Every single person would have written about the play. It would have been the lead of everyone's column, everyone's practice report. The reason it was only the lead of my practice report is because before Wilson stepped up in the pocket and flicked his wrist, Carl Lawson tapped him on the shoulder for a sack. So it would have been a touchdown. It would have been a glorious touchdown. It would have made everyone start tweeting and firing off, wow, what a throw by Zach Wilson, wow, wow, wow. Instead, it was Zach Wilson sacked. That's the kind of stuff that's holding him back some now, but it's also the kind of stuff that you want him to see now because he's going to get used to dealing with pressure. I mean, obviously, you don't want him to be slapped in the face so where he develops happy feet in the pocket. You don't want that. But you do want him to develop this, get used to it, get used to seeing a rush, get used to maneuvering a rush and getting past it. But if it wasn't for those three things, I think those two things we talked about with learning the offense and hearing the live drills, that's slowing him down a bit. And then obviously the pass rushes as well.
One thing you want to see from your quarterback is chemistry developed with receivers. And I think we all assumed Elijah Moore would be the guy, right? That just both being rookies and going through that experience together that he would go to. But Corey Davis is kind of becoming that safety net for him so far.
Yeah, he has. And I do want to say this. I'm tweeting now too. I know Marissa doesn't do this anymore ever since we went to like this fancy little software. So I got to do it myself. I got to get longer segue. Yeah, that was a really quick transition. As soon as you started, I was like, okay, we're talking about Corey Davis. I thought I had time to tweet. And all of a sudden you were done. And all I had was, how has Corey? And I was like, oh boy, and I'm a fast typer too. I do want to say
this is why this stream is more fun than the podcast.
Correct. I will say, before we move on, and I do want to make this very clear, Zach Wilson doesn't look bad. I've seen bad. I watched Christian Hackenberg in 2016 and 2017. I watched Bryce Petty. Okay. I watched Geno Smith. I watched Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2016. He was pretty good in 15, but 2016, I've seen Josh McCown. I've seen, take Josh out of it. Josh actually was pretty good. I've seen bad quarterback play. I've seen rookie quarterbacks floundering and drowning and looking like a fish out of water. I've seen bad. This isn't bad. I don't think that Zach throughout training camp looks as good as Sam Darnold did, because where I think Sam Darnold really grasped. I think
that's the question everyone wants answered.
Yeah, I would say Sam looked better at this point. Sam, I do. And I think that Sam looked better at this point in training camp. I think Sam was kind of coming. Now, granted, Sam was working in with the first team and Sam wasn't dealing with the pass rush that Zach's dealing with, but Sam looked a little bit more pro ready. And you saw him Sam's first preseason game against the Falcons. Granted, it was against the second team, but he made a couple plays where he went through 3-4 reads, came around the corner and threw a pass to the sideline. And I remember tweeting out rookie quarterbacks don't usually do that. And I remember Samini got on me because he was like, well, they do when they're playing the third string defense. And yeah, but still, it was good to see him go through that. And then they had the game against Washington and the joint practices against Washington. They did a drive the field drill against Washington where Washington's starting defense, and Sam took him right down the field for a touchdown. And then the next series took him right down the field for a field goal. And then in the preseason game did similar things. And you were like, okay, wow, this is starting to click for the kid. I haven't seen that starting to click for the kid moment with Zach Wilson. I haven't seen that starting to come along moment for Zach Wilson yet. But what I have seen is not bad play. There's been good followed by bad. There's been positive followed by negative. It's been the full roller coaster. There's been as many downs as ups, which obviously you don't want to see. It hasn't been as clean as at times it was with Sam Darnold during his first training camp, but you can see there's enough there to work with. And I can tell you that people within that building that I've talked to, they haven't lost any faith. They know it's eventually going to click for the kid. It's just a matter of when and sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it. And obviously you see the things where he's in at 6 a.m. and out at 9 and 10 p.m. He's studying film religiously. He studies film when he's in the building. He studies film when he's home. I mean, he eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Saleh said it. He's in love with this process. It's just a matter of sticking with that process and seeing that process all the way through. And I don't think it's fully clicked yet, but he's a rookie quarterback, and not everyone's going to be Justin Herbert. So, we'll see how that goes. But I do want to make it clear that, like, he doesn't look bad. He doesn't look awful. He doesn't look like he can't play. And at no point has he looked like, oh, man, this is just the game's too big for him. It's never looked like that. He just hasn't had that string of really good practices. Like, a perfect example is like that 80-yard touchdown he threw to Elijah Moore on the first practice. It was open to the fans. I think that's the last drive the field, full field touchdown this offense has scored. Like, it just hasn't been super clean, and it hasn't been super clean for the myriad of reasons we just discussed.
So what has Corey Davis done to kind of become that guy that Wilson looks to, other than be lined up as wide receiver one?
Yeah, he's Saleh said this when we talked to him about Corey Davis not too long ago. And he said what Corey Davis does is nothing super spectacular. And what I mean by that is he's never going to reach up and make the absurd one-handed grab like Beckham would. He's never going to take the slant 95 yards for a touchdown like we saw Elijah Moore do during OTAs. He's never going to wow you with his route running. He's never going to blow you away with his athleticism. He's never going to do that. But what Davis does is everything really, really well. And what he does is everything fundamentally and technically sound. So when his route is supposed to be run at 5 yards, it's run at 5 yards. He's excellent at using his big body to shield off defenders and create a window for the quarterback. When the ball is in his vicinity, he's great at making those 50-50 catches. He's a big body guy, so he can box people out. For a young quarterback, that's so beneficial. I go back to when the Giants signed Plaxico Burress for Eli Manning, and Plaxico had a terrible work ethic, but he was that big-bodied wideout that the pass didn't have to be perfect, and he could still come down with it. That's what Corey kind of reminds me of to a lesser extent, where you'll see Zach go to him time and time again in the red zone, because he has that ability to create a little bit of space, and a little bit of space when you're a big-bodied receiver like Corey Davis is a lot of bit of space. And Elijah Moore, obviously, I think is still somebody that we talk about all the time, although he's kind of not come back down to earth, and he's still making plays. We can only make so many plays when the quarterback's getting sacked 5 or 6 times at practice. But Corey, I think, is somebody who's starting to establish himself as that safety net for Zach Wilson, which I thought Jamison Crowder would develop into. It's actually starting to be Corey Davis. And when all things kind of go wrong, when he needs a play, when he needs the slant, when he needs something in the red zone, when he needs something along those lines, you're starting to see Corey become that player. And again, he's one of those guys that's very fundamentally sound. He's big-bodied. He's sure-handed. If it's in his area and he gets his hands on it, he's going to catch it. And for a young rookie quarterback, that is so valuable. And you're starting to see that happen time and time again at Jets camp.
All right, we're going to get to one of the other receivers. That's Denzel Mims and the lines and a lot more. But first, we need to take a break.
If you've been listening to Can't Wait for a while, you know that we've talked a lot about Magic Spoon because it's so good. We're all trying to eat better, but a healthy breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love without all the bad stuff. There's 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. And it's only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. You can build your own box or get a variety pack with available flavors including cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. And guess what? Cookies and cream and maple waffle are back, so you better go check those out too. Go to magicspoon.com/wait to grab your delicious cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode.
It's officially summer, and I, for one, couldn't be more excited. And after a year spent inside, emerging somewhat of a comfort connoisseur, I've realized that long days and warm nights just hit different when you're well rested. That's where Brooklinen comes in. One of the coolest things about Brooklinen is that they've got so many options. They are famous for their luxe sateen and classic percale sheets, but they've also got some amazing linen and even some cashmere sheets, because why not? And when it comes to prints and colors, they whip up new styles every season. Brooklinen sheets also pair perfectly with the rest of their bedding essentials like cozy comforters, pillows, and duvet covers. And since everyone knows summer comfort goes beyond the bedroom, they've also got some serious great bath towels, robes, and beach towels. All this high-quality, luxury-grade comfort without the luxury price tags, it's no wonder why Brooklinen has over 75,000 five-star reviews and counting. So go on, get summer ready with quality comfort and get it for less at Brooklinen. Go to brooklinen.com and use the promo code ATHLETIC to get $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's brooklinen.com and enter the promo code ATHLETIC for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's brooklinen.com, promo code ATHLETIC. You know who should have been eating Magic Spoon instead of salmon this summer, Connor? Denzel Mims.
Good transition. Good transition. Pre-recorded spots haven't stunted you with your transitions, let me tell you.
I had all that time to think about it instead of reading. So Denzel Mims lost 20 pounds, we now know. He's obviously not had a good summer. He's been down with the third team at times. He's with the second team at times. He has made some plays as of late. So how much do you put into the food poisoning? And I know people are going to start piling on you in the chat here anyway.
Oh my God. Like I've never seen a player have such like a loyal, like out of nowhere loyal. I mean, I've been attacked ruthlessly for just writing like what I've seen. Like people, like the wildest part is like, here's the thing, man. It's like when OTA started, he was out because he had the sickness. And we talked about it here, that he had a stomach bug. He lost a ton of weight because he had the stomach bug and he had the ton of weight and he was getting sick and all these things. He was unable to study the playbook. Like we literally said it on this podcast that it's hard to study the playbook when you're praying to the porcelain god every night. I know I dropped that line on this podcast, right? I couldn't say that it was bad salmon because the person that told me it was bad salmon told me it was off the record. So I couldn't like say, oh, he had bad salmon from the cafeteria and that's what gave him the food poisoning. Like I couldn't say that until now Mims went out in this conference today and said to the world, I had bad salmon from the cafeteria and it put me under, right? So he lost 20 pounds. So he ends up coming back. But here's the thing. When he returned from the food poisoning that he got from the salmon, he was still rotating in with the ones and working with the twos. So he was the second team receiver and would rotate in with the ones in OTAs and minicamp. When training camp or towards the end of minicamp, it was just the twos, no ones. When at minicamp, at training camp, it suddenly became no ones, just twos, sometimes threes. A week ago, it was only threes. Sometimes he was working with the twos. He never saw any reps with Zach Wilson at all. Now, at least she's starting to, with the third group of receivers, rotate in. But here's the thing that I keep telling people. I was like, oh, Denzel Mims caught a touchdown. You hate Denzel. I don't hate Denzel Mims. I've reported, or not even reported, I've observed and written everything that I've seen. There are 5 receivers that go in before Denzel Mims. 5 receivers. That makes him the 6th receiver. Does he sometimes rotate in with Zach Wilson? Yeah, he sometimes rotates in with Zach Wilson when he's next to the 6th receiver who's rotated in with Zach Wilson. We have not seen Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore. We have not seen Denzel Mims and Corey Davis. We have not seen Denzel Mims with the first grouping of receivers. He's played sometimes with the quarterback when he's rotated in with the 5th and 6th guys. So what I tweeted was that where somebody asked me, like, where do you see Denzel Mims on this roster? I said the 6th wide receiver, because that's the grouping he's paired with this entire time. Or if the Jets decide to trade him for somebody else where he's going to be a better fit on the offense. I don't care what like all these people on Twitter are like, oh, you don't know what this offense needs. Yeah, dude, I do, because I've talked to a ton of people over in the NFC West who designed defenses and tried to design defenses to shut down this 49ers offense. Obviously, it was very hard to do it, but in trying to figure out how to shut it down, they've had to figure out what it needs to work. And what it needs is route runners that are great yards after catch guys, and guys that are great route runners, and guys that are great route runners, and guys that are great yards after catch guys. Those 2 things that I repeated, that's what they need to make this offense work. That's why Corey Davis, a great route runner, works. That's why they went out and they prioritized Elijah Moore to basically be their Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. Like, that's what they want. Denzel Mims is a linear player. Denzel Mims is a great 50-50 guy. Denzel Mims is a great guy who is so fast he can outrun people deep. He can't get open. You want to know how I know? I walked off the field with a referee that covered the practice, one of the early training camp practices, and I was picking his mind out. What do you see? He's been a referee for this team for 20-something years. He looked at me and he goes, man, that number 8, Elijah Moore, kid's going to be pretty damn good. Number 11, couldn't get open against me. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not a great – I'm not making this shit up. This isn't my head looking at him. I talk to people. That's part of my job. I talk to people in this field. I talk to people in this business. I talk to coaches. I talk to scouts to get an idea of what makes this guy good and what makes the guy bad. And it's not that he's a bad player. He's great linear player. He's great making contested catches. He's a great deep threat. That's why Joe Douglas drafted him, because that's what Adam Gase wanted his receivers to do. It's a new scheme. It's a different scheme. And I'm sorry, but if he was this great route runner and he was this perfect player, he wouldn't be working 6th in the rotation. It's just a fact. So yeah, should he be on this team? In my opinion, yeah, because while he's not going to be the starter and he's not going to see 50 snaps a game, he does have a valuable skill set that you can use where you can put him in the red zone. You can put him in on third downs. You can put him in certain packages where you want him to stretch the field and you can use him to his strengths. That's what Mike LaFleur is going to do. That's what Mike LaFleur is going to try to do. That's what Mike LaFleur wants to do. And he's a good offensive coordinator. He's going to be a hell of a head coach. And that's why he's going to, he's better than Adam Gase is, because Adam Gase was like, oh, you can't. I want my receiver to do this. You do X. I want my receiver to do X. You do Y and Z. Well, no, you're no good. I need to find a receiver that can go X. Like, that's what like he wants. Like, that's what Adam Gase would do. It's not Mike LaFleur will look at Denzel Mims, say Denzel Mims does these 3 things. Well, I'm going to put him in a position to do that. But if the Jets look at their roster and say, you know what, we really like Lawrence Cage, or we really like Vincent Smith, there's a chance maybe they try to trade him for a pick. Do I think it's likely? No. I think he makes this team as the 6th wide receiver and is thrown in certain packages. But these people that are on my ass over it's absurd, man. Like, I haven't said the guy sucks. I haven't said the guy can't play. I haven't said the guy's not good. I said this offense prioritizes something that Denzel Mims doesn't do particularly well. He's not a great route runner. He's a great 50-50 deep threat. And that's a very valuable thing for receivers. There are receivers that make $10 million a year that aren't pristine, immaculate route runners like Antonio Brown. That's just the case. But to say oh, he's not, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm over it. I'm so over it. Like, you're talking about Blocktober, it's going to be Block August, because I'm through with this. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Dude, it's not me. Like, here's the thing. When I got this job, when I first started covering the NFL in 2014, I went in saying, I know football as well as anyone else. With more coaches you talk to, the more players you talk to, the more scouts you talk to, you realize that they understand this game on a rocket science level. And even the most impressive reporters and even the most impressive film junkie guys are really just advanced algebra compared to how these guys know the game. So I stopped doing film reviews. I stopped doing X's and O's. I stopped breaking down the film because I don't know the game the way that these guys do. So instead of me trying to, being all egotistical and in my own head, I'll break down this film. I'll break down all this shit. I'll do all this, blah, 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 blah. No, I talk to people who know it more than I do. A positive attribute I've been able to, just because I've been in this field for 8 years, and you meet people and you know people, and I listen to what they tell me, and I relay what they tell me to somebody else, and I get it confirmed. And it's just, that's how I formulate my opinions. I don't formulate it on myself. I formulate it from people that know the game better than I do. And that's where I get this shit. I don't pull it out of my ass. I get it because I talk to people. Truthfully, that's the thing. And it just drives me nuts when again, I never said the guy sucks. I never said the guy's not good. I never said the guy's not play. I just said there are players on this scheme, on this offense, that fit the scheme better. That's why Keelan Cole, since OTAs, has been working in front of him. It's just a fact. And I'm sorry, but random jobber in my mentions who's like, you don't know what you're talking about. How many practices have you been to, dude? I've been to every goddamn one but 2 when Marissa's cousin got married. That's the only 2 I've missed. Coincidentally, it was Zach Wilson's first best practice, so you guys can connect those dots, and I'm like the jinx for Zach Wilson. But seriously, I'm just over it. So no, do I think he's going to get traded? I think there's an outside chance that he could get traded. Do I think he's going to get cut? No, I don't think he's going to get cut. But he's clearly the 5th or 6th guy in the rotation. And even though he's sometimes seeing reps with Zach Wilson, he's still working in the same capacity that he has dating back to not even OTAs, because he was doing more and working ahead of people in OTAs compared to where he is now. Rant over.
I was gonna
breathe in and out.
Thank you, Marissa.
Yoga pose.
I was going to ask a follow-up, but I'm not going to now because we don't have enough show left. But that was That was a good rant. All right, so let's move on to the lines. Enough Mims. Hope everybody enjoyed that. The chat room certainly did. Good stuff. So talking about the lines, and we'll talk about both sides, left, and then we'll go to the right side. But starting on the left, it's something we've continued to talk about. You talked about it at the beginning, Carl Lawson's utter dominance, and it brings up this question of like, Is Carl Lawson going to be Lawrence Taylor in 2021? Probably not. So what are we supposed to be thinking about Mekhi Becton, who we know is a huge human being and was very good as a rookie. So there's no reason to think Mekhi Becton is not a good player, but is it that he's just a bad matchup with Carl Lawson? I just don't get how he can get burned. I got it at the beginning that, hey, this guy's going to come at you. You got to hit back, but it seems like that's not happening, and it's just Mekhi Becton getting burned play after play after play.
If I hear that it's a bad matchup for Mekhi Becton one more time, and I hear it's a go-to line, Chris Nimbley, who I love. Like he says this all the time to me. I'm literally, you think I just had a rant? I'm going to explode. I am so over about bad matchup. I'm so over he's too tiny for Mekhi. I have it here. I sent this picture to like Daryl and Andy. So everyone's like, oh my God, it's just because he's 6'2". So it's such a bad matchup. It's such a bad matchup for Mekhi Becton. He's 6'2". If he was 6'4", like any of these, suddenly he's not undersized. This is 2 inches. This is what's separating right there. Not even this pink part. This is what's separating Mekhi Becton from being able to block Carl Lawson.
Just for the people who are listening on the podcast,
I have a tape measure.
Connor has actually brought a tape measure to the show because he knew this question was coming.
And
he doesn't even look at the rundown. Yeah. He just knew this question was coming.
I just remember I sent this picture to one of my friends the other day, and so I just knew it was sitting here. This is what's stopping Carl Lawson or Mekhi Becton from being able to block Carl Lawson because he's 6'2" and not 6'4". So I'm sorry. Like, look, Carl Lawson's a hell of a player. Like, I think he is a disruptive nightmare. There's a chance that you can loop him in with top 15, top 10 defensive ends in the NFL, right, by the end of the year. Like, if he gets to a 10, 12 sack season, if he gets 11 sacks, something like that, people will be talking about him as a top 10, top 8 pass rusher. But he is not Nick Bosa. He's not Zadarius Smith right now. He's not Khalil Mack. I mean, you can go down the list of players, TJ Watt, like you can go down the list of players that are better pass rushers than him right now. Like, he's a very disruptive player. The Jets called him, like, the Jets are obsessed with him, and they think they got such like like they're so excited and so pumped about the player they've gotten. But this, like, iron sharpens iron. This, like, he's making it, like, I get it. And people, again, this is like, I'm going like, but this isn't iron sharpening iron, man. This is like somebody getting beaten over the head with an iron bar every day. Like, seriously, that's what this is. Like, I've never seen a player get beat 2 to 3 sacks every single day, and matchup nightmare, matchup this, matchup that. If you are a player that is believed to have all pro potential, if you're a player that is believed to have Pro Bowl potential, if you are a player that is believed to be somebody that can one day be a franchise left tackle and one of the top 5 left tackles in the NFL, I'm sorry, but you should still be able to block Carl Lawson. Like, you should still be able to block him. And like, I saw somebody tweet at me today. They were like, I saw, Mekhi Becton got the better of Carl Lawson more times than not today. Zach Wilson dropped back to pass 11 times, and Carl Lawson had a sack. Okay, we're not talking about in 200 pass blocking snaps, Carl Lawson beats Mekhi Becton for 2 sacks at 100 pass rushes. Could you imagine? Like, so you say that's 1 sack and 10 dropbacks. That means it's 3 sacks and 30 dropbacks, right? So if Mekhi Becton was giving up 3 sacks a Sunday, does that mean he beat him because he beat him on on the 27 other dropbacks? He blocked Carl Lawson, but on the 3, no. If you're giving up 3 sacks a Sunday, 2 sacks a Sunday, 1 sack every game, that's not good. That means that he's going to finish the season allowing 16 sacks. That's bad. Now, am I ready to sound the alarm and wave it and go crazy and go, oh my God, no? No, I'm not, because I want to see Mekhi Becton go up against Zadarius Smith in Green Bay. I want to see him go up against Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Fletcher Cox plays inside, but Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett when they do the joint practices with the Eagles. I want to see those things. And if he shuts down Zadarius Smith and then he shuts down Brandon Graham and then he shuts down Derek Barnett, then you know what? I'll be eased. I will be completely eased and be like, you know what? He's going to be fine. He's going to be perfectly fine. I'm not worried about it at all. But these people that just brush off this as nothing, as it's a matchup problem, as iron sharpening iron, that stupid cliche, as that they just brush it off as, oh, don't worry about it. It's just training camp. I've covered 8 training camps. I have never seen a guy get beat 2 to 3 times every single practice. And is it alarming? A little bit. Is it reason for concern? I don't know, but it's definitely an asterisk heading into those Packer practices next week. It's definitely a note to make heading into those Packer practices next week, because if Zadarius Smith starts beating Becton and getting by for 2 sacks, or if he beats him for a sack of practice, what are we going to be saying? Like, you can't just brush this off as Carl Lawson is a matchup nightmare. That drives me nuts, because we're not talking about Mekhi Becton in the sense of he's Jag. He's just another guy. We're not talking about Mekhi Becton as a guy who's just a competent, okay left tackle. He is a guy that was drafted 11th overall to be an all-pro, Pro Bowl, top-tier franchise left tackle. And if you're over an all-pro, top-tier, all-pro, Pro Bowl left tackle, if that's what you are, and that's what you believe you are, Carl Lawson should not be beating you for 3 sacks every single day. It shouldn't be happening. Am I wrong? If we go into these Packer practices and he stuffs Zadarius Smith, and we go into the practice against the Eagles and he stuffs Brandon Graham, and we go into the regular season and he shuts down the Panthers rush, and he shuts down the Falcons rush, and he shuts down the Patriots rush, and he starts doing all these things, I'll be the first one to come here and say, you know what? Iron sharpened iron. That's the sharpest goddamn iron I've ever seen. No, I was wrong. I will be the first person to say it. I've said it before. I have no problem saying it again. I was wrong. You were right. Iron sharpened iron was totally off base. You're right. But right now, it is an asterisk, and it's the top thing that I am going to watch in these joint practices, because I'm sorry. It shouldn't happen 3 times a day. I know I've never seen a TJ Watt rush before. I know I've never seen a Khalil Mack rush before in training camp. I know I've never seen Aaron Donald rush in training camp, but I've seen decent rushers come through one Jets drive. Leonard Williams was here during his 7-sack season. Muhammad Wilkerson was here during his 11-sack season. Sheldon Richardson was here when he was a defensive rookie of the year. There were flashes from guys like Dylan Donahue. While he didn't materialize, he still had a really good training camp practice. There was flashes from Lorenzo Malden before things went south with him. Like, there have been good players and players who have flashed. And I've seen good rushes and I've seen good players. I've seen those players, Mo Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson, Leonard Williams. I've seen those guys get through and create havoc on a quarterback, but I've never seen it happen at the rate that it is happening with Carl Lawson. Is Carl Lawson a good player? Yes. Is Carl Lawson a very good player? Yes. Does Carl Lawson have the chance to develop into a great player with the Jets if he can get those sack numbers up to 10, 11, 12? Yes. Is Carl Lawson a guy who spent the last 3 years hitting quarterbacks? Absolutely. But he's also a guy who has never had 9 sacks in a season. He's a guy who's never had double-digit sacks in a season. He's never been that guy yet. So the fact that a player who has never had double-digit sacks is getting 3 sacks every single day against your franchise hopeful left tackle, it's absolutely a little bit of a concern and a little noteworthy. And again, not ready to sound the alarms until I see it against the Packers and Eagles, but it's absolutely something that, like, brushing it off is silly. Brushing it off and not paying any note to it, it's silly. It is silly, because I've never seen it before. People who have done this longer than me have never seen it before. And it's not just Carl Lawson being good, and it's not just Carl Lawson being a matchup problem, because, again, we're talking about 6'2" and 6'4". It's that much of a difference. This is what's stopping Mekhi Becton from blocking Carl Lawson, is because he's 6'2" and not 6'4". I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't.
Well, my Eagles pod, they've been talking a lot about Josh Sweat and how he's been having a really good camp down there in Philly. So that will be a good test.
Find out if Josh
Sweat, be a good test for him.
Who's their left tackle? Who's the Eagles left, or Lane Johnson? Find out if Josh Sweat's beaten Lane Johnson 3 times a day, because Lane Johnson is one of the best right tackles in the NFL. Find out how many times he's getting beat. Guarantee it's not 3 a practice. It's alarming. It's alarming. Like, it's every day. And again, he don't like some. I was literally laughing. I was laughing as I was leaving when somebody's like, "I heard Becton got the better of Carl Lawson today." Zach Wilson dropped back 10 times, and Becton got beat once. So 1 out of 10 dropbacks, Becton already got beat for a sack. That's not good. That's not beating him. You're like beating them is when Carl Lawson has like one sack every 2 or 3 practices. That I'd say like, okay, they're each battling it out. They're getting it. Maybe like there's one practice where Lawson has 2 sacks, but then Becton shuts him down for the next 3 before Lawson comes back again. That's not what's happening at One Jets Drive. It's not. It's every single practice, pads or no pads, Becton's getting beat 2 or 3 times.
All right, and we got to get to a break in a minute, but quickly before we do that, let's jump across to the other side of the line where there is a competition, Connor, Morgan Moses and George Fant. Talk about it, because I think when it was first stated, everybody was like, yeah, sure, there's a competition, until they decide that it's Moses' job. But just kind of sum up what's going on there and how Fant is playing.
Well, I was stunned. I mean, yeah, when the Jets said that, they're like, "Oh, we signed him. It's an open competition." I was like, "Okay, like, yeah, no, it's not. Like, you just signed Morgan Moses. You brought him in here. That's cute. You want to like make your captain last year feel good, but like, no, it's not. Like, he's going to be the swing tackle, and Morgan Moses going to be the right tackle. But no, I mean, since Fant came back off the COVID list, it has been a full rotation. It has been Moses, then Fant, then Moses, then Fant. Then Moses, then Fant, and they're constantly rotating. Now, what I will say is that it's very hard to analyze that level of a competition, because the only time an offensive lineman can really pop in training camp is when, like we just talked about, they're routinely getting beat. So when they are routinely getting beat, that's when you look, you say, okay, this guy got a sack. He beat this guy for the sack. That's when you can watch it. We don't have, like when the preseason comes and the regular season comes and we have the aid of instant replay and we can watch the all 22s and go back and watch the same play 4 times to see how does he do? How does he do? How does he do? We don't have the luxury of doing that. So we only get it in real time. I saw Fant get beat in the green and white scrimmage for a sack once. I've seen John Franklin Myers come around a couple of times, but again, it's like, it's tough for anyone on the defensive line to get sacks because of how quickly Lawson's beating Becton to get in the backfield. Like it's hard for other guys to rack up the numbers. But it is a fully open competition. And we talked to Fant the other day. I think it was on Monday. I think it was when we talked to Fant, and we asked him, how you feeling? And he made a comment of, you saw me in the scrimmage, didn't you? Which, when he makes a comment like that, that tells me he had, again, while we didn't have the luxury of watching it over and over and over again like coaches would, that tells me Fant's performing pretty well. And the Jets didn't go and give him that money because they thought he was just some schlub or the last guy that was open. I mean, they really loved his potential. And his athleticism as a former basketball player should be highlighted and exemplified even more in this scheme that is meant to highlight and exemplify athleticism amongst the offensive linemen. So the Jets went out there and they got Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses was in there for the first 2 weeks of camp when Fant was on the COVID list. Now Fant's back, and it is a fully open competition, and I don't necessarily know who has the edge, because Moses is out there, then Fant's out there. Moses is out there, then Fant's out there. Moses is out there. I mean, it is a fully revolving door. And I think at some point, though, the Jets do need to settle on a player sooner rather than later, in my opinion, because the sooner you settle on a player, then that front 5 can start developing cohesiveness and chemistry. And obviously that's something the Jets haven't had in years and years and years because of how this guy gets hurt, a new guy's in, this guy's signed, this guy's out, all that crazy stuff. They have to eventually settle on someone, and I would think they should settle on them relatively soon, probably after those Packer practices. Personally, I would do it after the Giants game. I would say, you're my right tackle, and figure it out. But they seem, and Saleh said that he's not worried about it, and he's not going to rush to a decision, and they're going to play the best person. And right now, I don't know who has the edge. I'll be able to tell a little bit more after the Packer practices and after we get some actual preseason film like this Giants game where I can go back and watch it a couple of times. But I truly believe, based off of what I've seen, it is a wide open competition, and it could very easily be Fant's job, or it could very easily be Moses' job. And the preconceived notion like I had of this is Moses' gig, it clearly is not the case, because this truly is a wide open competition.
All right, we're going to talk about the first preseason game versus the Giants, but first, a message from our sponsors. Today's episode is sponsored by the NBA and their quest to advance the game of basketball, grow the community, and impact culture. The league celebrates its teams, players, and fans across the past, present, and future as part of its 75th anniversary season. That's Game highlights pivotal moments on court and beyond, from iconic plays in arenas to the impact players have in the community. That's the NBA, that's Game. Like in the NBA Finals, when the Bucks had their backs against the wall, Jrue Holiday steals the ball, pushes the break, alley-oop to Giannis for an iconic slam, seals Game 5 and the eventual title. That's the NBA, that's Game. This is more than just basketball. It's what connects us all and keeps us coming back for more. That's the NBA, that's Game.
Sign up today with BetMGM, the exclusive betting partner of The Athletic, and get a $1,000 risk-free first bet, plus get a free 3-month subscription to The Athletic. Just sign up at BetMGM.com/TAWait to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. That's BetMGM.com/TAWait. New customer offer. Paid in bonus dollars. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions.
Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Nevada, and Virginia. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. And 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In Tennessee, call or text the Red Line at 800-889-9789. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. Promotional offer not available in Nevada.
Michael Dunn, I saw that comment about missing the live reads. We'll throw in live reads. I'm sure as we go through the season.
It allows for us to go on. It allows for us to go on other tangents, like Connor's Denzel Mims rant.
Right.
So
I haven't ranted like this since what do you call it? Since the Gase time. God, there were so many. Oh, how bad that team was.
It also allows me to not.
I actually blacked out
horrible. Yeah, well, I think Jets fans do too.
There's parts of that season I don't even remember. Like somebody made a comment about I totally forgot Jamison Crowder threw a touchdown. Like I don't even remember that Brown. I think all I remember is Michael. Didn't Michael play? Didn't Dunn play that game?
Michael got his first. He had only played on special teams before that, so that was his first technically offensive snap. It was like a jumbo package. Yeah.
Okay, so I remember that part.
They had no receivers in that game.
Yes, that's true. But there's so many parts. I don't remember who they played in the middle of the season. It's wild how much I just blacked that out. It's I can't even go back. That was and the crazy thing was everyone was so miserable. Like the fan base was so miserable, and everyone was so upset and sad and mad at everyone. And it was this is not fun. This is not. Oh man, it was just holding on, just waiting until the end.
And then they won a game, and everybody got more miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was it, because it was the one shining light. It was the one at least they're gonna get Trevor Lawrence. And then when they won that game, I remember having Dane on here and actually being I don't know how to holy hell, it just being they won, and the one pot, and I remember just feeling so bad for Jet fans. But I mean, I think Zach's gonna be good. I will put that out there. I do think Zach Wilson's gonna be a good player. I do.
All right. Well, we're going to get another
to talk about, right?
Yeah.
New games.
Yes.
Right. Because I mean, it's one thing to watch them in practice and even the scrimmage, but fans have to be just psyched for Saturday and to get to see Zach Wilson in an actual, well, not real game, but in an actual preseason game against another team, and just to see what he can do. I guess my first question, we'll get to just overall, Connor, what you're looking forward to seeing.
Wait, Tim, can I interrupt you real quick? Really quick? I finally have my iPad set up again, so I've got all these. Marissa, can we get the pod does want to know, can we get a Michael Dunn training camp clear? I was hoping the Browns were going to get Hard Knocks again, so we could get a full Michael Dunn, what do you call it? But can we get a Michael Dunn update on how training camp's going for him, where he's working, that kind of a thing, without divulging too much of the asking you to inadvertently break whatever Browns media policy it is. But let's get a Michael Dunn
we were
update.
Literally about to go into a Jets preseason preview, and now all of a sudden we've totally shifted gears. But camp is going very well. He's been playing a lot, which is great. They look like a really good team. They have their first preseason game actually against Trevor Lawrence and those Jaguars. So I will actually be heading to Jacksonville on Friday for that. The game's Saturday.
Sorry.
Jacksonville is not that bad, Connor. Connor is too tough on Jacksonville. But yeah, he's been taking some reps at center. He's been playing guard. He's doing a lot. So
working second team, right? I think we can say that, can't we? Are we allowed to say?
Yeah.
I think Brown. You can tweet the depth charts out. So he's working second team, which is good.
Yeah,
second team and versatile is two good things for offensive linemen.
Yeah, they were, and when Joel Bitonio rested yesterday, this is also out on Twitter. So this is he was playing with the ones when Joel was resting. So that was good too. So he's got to fight, and it's tough to make the 53-man roster. There's he's got to prove himself in the preseason games, and there's still a lot to go. But fingers crossed.
If
Working
he doesn't,
hard.
I'm sure. If he doesn't, I'm sure there's a ton of subscribers right now that would cut quite a few players on the Jets roster to get Michael Dunn over here. I'm sure you would see an abundance of 68 jerseys in the stands out of nowhere.
Yeah, so it's going well. Excited for the preseason to start, and excited to see what the Jets are going to do in their preseason game against the Giants, who apparently have no offensive line.
Well done, Marissa. Well
I'm trying
done.
to get it back on track.
We interrupt this Brown spring preseason report for more Jets content.
Yes.
What I was going to ask you, Connor, I like the segue. That was fun. So, but anyway, what I was going to ask before we get to overall what you're looking for this game is how much do you expect Zach Wilson to play in this game?
I'm hopefully we're going to find that out tomorrow. I would assume he'll play through the first quarter. I think the Jets will give him 2 series. I think he'll get 2 series. If he scores on the second series, you could see him come out. I mean, this isn't going to be a David Carr thing. This isn't going to be where they throw him out there for, an entire half or something like that. They're not going to beat the kid down. They're not going to let him take shots. I mean, I think he'll play as long as the starting offensive line plays. So it'll be probably I could see him going into the second quarter, but I think they're going to want to get him something that you can build on. And 3 and outs aren't going to do that. So if you see, the first series go 3 and out, or the first series gets a first down, then a punt, and then the second series goes down and scores, I could see that being it. But I would say anywhere between 3 and 4 possessions out of guessing. Now, the Jets have not totally decided yet. They haven't met on that. They're meeting on that tonight and tomorrow. So we have training camp access tomorrow on Thursday. So we'll find out then how much Zach's going to play. But I would assume it'll probably be between 3 and 4 series, maybe a full quarter, something like that.
He's going to be the starter week 1, and it's a shortened preseason now with just 3 games. It feels like, where do you get the guy the reps that he needs, right? With also not having him out there with the second strings. The lack of that 4th game really makes it tricky in this situation.
It does, and I think that's why you're seeing all of these teams have joint practices, because a lot of coaches did not like – now, Salah's different. Salah likes them. A lot of coaches did not like joint practices because – the minute you start, it's almost like bulls when they see red. Like the minute you see another color, these guys are going to fight. Like there's definitely going to be, I know the LaFleurs are brothers. There's going to be a fight. Like it's absolutely going to happen. I mean, granted, Alex Lewis isn't with the team right now, so he would have fought the whole damn Packer roster, like knowing that guy. But like I don't know if there's that many guys that are going to go crazy. Wesco seems to me like a guy that might throw some fists down. I think he would be the one that I'd bet on starting something. Maybe Jared Davis. Jared Davis is another guy that he's a talker, and I can see him getting under some people's skin and laying the lumber and getting up and talking, and then somebody's pushing, and then it's going to be a fight. But there's definitely be a fight at some point, which is why they don't necessarily like them. But they are so much more valuable because you only gain so much going up against your defense every single day, and you only gain so much going up against your offense every single day. You need to see different looks. You need to see new offenses. You need to see new defenses. You need to see those things, and you can finally get it when you do these joint practices. And I think that's why you're seeing the Jets do that against the Packers, then also do it against the Eagles. And next year, Saleh said they're talking about doing them with the Giants as well, which would be kind of cool. Because I think the last time the Giants and Jets had joint practices when like Shockey fought the entire team or something like that, went wild, like way back when, in like 03, 04, 05, something like that. So it is significantly more valuable. And like I said, that's what I can't wait to see, because I want to see Zach Wilson against a different offense. I want to see Mekhi Becton against Zadarius Smith. I want to see Elijah Moore against a different secondary. I want to see Corey Davis against a different secondary. I want to see the Jets defense against the non-rookie quarterback. What's Aaron Rodgers going to do to Bryce Hall or Bless Austin? Like, can they hang up? How is Bryce Hall or Bless Austin going to cover Devontae Adams? I want to see these things. I want to see this Jets run defense, which has kind of struggled. Like, we've talked a lot about how the Jets offensive line is so good at run blocking, right? Well, is the Jets defensive line bad at stopping the run? Because if the Jets defensive line stops Aaron Jones, but then the Jets offensive line also opens, well, then it's like, okay, well, no, the defense is actually in pretty good shape. You want to see Carl Lawson go up against a different offensive line, not just Mekhi Becton, where he's
sure. You want to see him. You want to see Carl Lawson against a shorter left tackle.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's going to be fun. And that's the value of these things. That's the value of everything, is that you get a chance to see different looks. And they're so valuable now because there isn't that extra preseason game. You know what I mean?
All right. I was going to ask, the next question was, what were you most looking forward to seeing in this game? But I think you just took care of that one as well. So overall,
I'm really looking forward.
Go ahead.
That's just about the Mets. I thought the Mets came back. I thought there was a rain. The Mets game got delayed again. It's probably going to get canceled, whatever. I'll tell you what I am excited for. I finished Outer Banks. That was the
We were
second
just
season.
talking about that in the chat. I'm on
Yeah.
like episode 4 of the second season.
Glad
I
you're
thought
paying
the second-
attention to the podcast,
Yeah.
Marissa.
Yeah, I was in the chat chatting with my people about Outer Banks. It's actually like really good. Like I'm
Oh, I
always
love it. It's my guilty
skeptical
pleasure.
about a season 2 after like a season 1 was so successful. You know, it was like the hype of quarantine. But I would say they've done such a good job. Like it's really entertaining so far. So no one give me any spoilers. Maybe I'll
It's like
finish
a
it tonight.
teenage rom-com mixed with
Yeah.
like Nicolas Cage's National Treasure. It's like Nicolas Cage's National Treasure and teen rom-com, and I'm obsessed with it. Like I'm obsessed with all the characters. I love it. I can't get enough of the Outer Banks. So I can't wait for season 3. I finished that one up. I stay up to like 2 and 3 in the morning binging. I basically finished it in 3 days, and that was during training camp where I've got to wake up super early to get to practice. And the one I'm on now is Marissa. I know you're a big fan. Is Ted Lasso. I started that with
huge
Bree. So
fan.
actually, as soon as I
Huge
close
fan.
up here, Bree and I are going to watch one.
Yeah.
I've been telling Mandy for weeks that we have to start watching Ted Lasso.
It's
And
good.
we're gonna too, so
good.
we can.
Wait, you've never
Yep.
watched it either, Tim?
No, I haven't. I don't know
gosh.
why.
What am I
like through
doing?
the pandemic, I never watched it. I
No
had no
more
idea. why,
pods.
but-
No more pods until you guys watch Ted Lasso. I haven't watched the second season yet because the episodes are coming out weekly, and I kind of want to like binge it.
Binge. Yeah.
Yeah. But the first season was incredible. So
That's what we did with the final season of The Good Place. We just waited until we could watch like the entire thing in 2 days.
Yeah, there's something
gotta watch
special
last
about
season. That's
binging everything all at once for sure. And we do have to make a mention to it. I believe there was a lot of talk earlier during Connor's rant, but Tim officially has 3 hats behind him on the wall now. Yes, and some
nice.
shelves.
No, that's
So all the
shelves with baby stuff on them. Yeah.
yes, baby.
But
McMaster
we're gonna
is
try
coming
to
soon.
switch it out, like baby stuff by day, football via podcast. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
And don't worry, we'll have a pool of when Baby McMaster will arrive, Baby
And you better
McMaster's
start that
gender,
pool soon. Yeah.
Baby McMaster's gender, and height and weight. And the
Can we
winner
guess
will,
Baby McMaster's name too?
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you want. It's going to be Connor. It's actually going to be
It's gonna be
Denzel.
Michael Dunn. It's gonna be another Michael Dunn.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a third Michael Dunn.
perfect.
All right. Does that do it? I think that does it. We're going to be back next week. We'll have a full recap of the Giants game, of course,
from
and
Green
whatever
Bay.
else is
That's gonna
going
be
on.
honest to bring my stuff.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Please. Reminders. Set an alarm or something for yourself to bring your
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I hear the fashion over there is socks with Crocs.
Yes.
If anyone was following that on,
No.
in case anyone was following that on Twitter yesterday, the Athletics Packers writer Matt Schneidman, I believe I'm pronouncing that
He wears
correctly.
Crocs.
He wore
They-
socks with Crocs
another
to
a
practice.
Syracuse
Long talk
grad,
to them.
by the way. Matt
Yeah, so he
Stein,
wore socks with
Syracuse
Crocs
grad.
to
No, I'm not
practice.
surprised.
And Aaron Rodgers was picking on him, and he tweeted something out, and then Aaron Rodgers responded. It was this whole funny bit on
I have to look at
Twitter
this. I
yesterday.
don't
Yeah, so
own
go check
Crocs.
it out.
I will not own Crocs. That is not my thing. I will not claiming to be like I'm not going to be on the next cover of GQ here, but I will not wear Crocs. That's
Well, Aaron Rodgers.
I draw the line at like flip flops, and even then I have one pair, and like that's it.
All right. Well,
Schneidman
as long
has
as you
also
bring
been
your
mocked
shoes.
on. He's also been mocked on Twitter for looking like somebody from the 1800s. I don't know if you saw
Yes,
that one,
I
Marissa.
saw
He's
that.
had a rough.
I'm
He's
not
had a
gonna
rough
go.
couple weeks on
Yeah.
Twitter.
We'll have to bring him on the pod. Do they have a
Yeah.
Packers pod? Do we have a Packers
We
pod?
do. We do.
We
I
do.
am a producer of that one as well. Head of the pack.
Head of
So,
the pack. Yeah.
yep. If you want to check out what the Packers are up to, just download all of the podcasts that I work on, please. I would really appreciate that.
There you go. And
Download,
you can
add
save
it to your feed.
And you can save 33% off a subscription to The Athletic as well. Just go to theathletic.com/can't wait. That's going to do it for us. I think we've dragged this thing out long enough. We'll talk to you again next week on the Can't Wait podcast.